So now that we have some basics of what these UTMs are and some basic naming conventions, let's talk a bit more about how to create these URLs and how to get this information into a custom URL. So the first thing you're going to need to do is create a unique and trackable URL. Now you can certainly do this manually if you want by using some of the messages that we talked about, but the easiest way to do this is use a tool. And Google actually provides a tool, which is their campaign URL builder. And I have that opened here. This is what it looks like. So here you see what's the URL that you want to send people to when they click this link. Well, I want to send them to my homepage. If I wanted to send them somewhere else, let's say, for example, if I wanted to go ahead and send them directly into my All-Star membership program, right, then I would just put this URL into that builder, saying, okay, when you click on the URL, I want you to land people on this page of my website. I don't need the campaign ID. I'm not going to be importing anything. I'm going to leave it blank. The source is going to be Google. There's my Google GBP. Mentioned that already. And then I'm going to give it a campaign name. Now, in this case here, I've named this one Local Listing Tampa because I have two locations. I have one here in Land O'Lakes and one in Tampa. And so I want to maybe putting this out to my Tampa version of my Google Business Profile. And I'm just going to give it a term called Get Started and a campaign content of new subscription. Again, I don't need anything there at all if I don't want it. These are optional terms here. What happens now is this tool actually creates the link for me. And I can copy that link. And if I go ahead and use that link, and we're not going to be able to see it right away, but if I actually click on that link, it's going to take me to this page, but there's a trackable URL now in here. And now on our tracking tools, and Sean, obviously we're going to have to ignore this, but in our tracking tools now, there will be a listing that shows, hey, we got some traffic from Google, from the GBP, and it's for the local listing in Tampa, okay? So this is trackable. I'm going to show you exactly how powerful it is in just a few moments. We're going to get into some of the tools that track this for us, right? So again, just kind of building through it here, kind of grab that same screenshot here and kind of put it in here. And there's also at the bottom of that, it kind of talks more about what these parameters represent, whether they're required or not, and then some examples of what they're used for. So I tried to include that here in the documentation so you could see it. But basically, if you wanted to track clicks from GBP listing, first thing is just type or paste the URL, the page you want, when you get there, leave the campaign ID blank if you like. Analytics knows the source is going to be Google. That's what Google shows. That's just how they put it. And then for the next is going to be our medium. Again, I always use GBP because they typically use source medium of Google Organic. I'll show you this too. And we're just going to create a new medium that we want Google to track, which is called GBP. Okay. Now, there is some things to keep in mind about this. Of course, we can put in our campaign name to track whatever we're advertising. All right. So for example, since we're looking at tracking GBP locations, if we have 3 locations, well, then we want to have one location for Gibsonton, one location for Tampa, one location for Lutz. So each one of them is going to have their own URL that's going to be tracked differently in Google Business Profile. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So feel free to use whatever you prefer, but just be consistent, right? You don't want to change things, make things different. You want to be very, very consistent when you're doing this. And of course, you can add those other parameters, as I mentioned. And if those URLs are pretty long, so if you wanted to, you can, if you had a pro version of Bitly, for example, you could use a shortened version of that to put a nice Bitly, and those UTM parameters will flow through into analytics. You won't just get the Bitly link, which is a really nice feature of Bitly.